Okay, Mayor?
Yep.
Norway City Council meeting called to order. Let's have the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mary.
Mrs. Brew?
Here.
Mr. Babalani?
Here.
Dr. Hayes? Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Mr. Pop?
Here. We need a motion to excuse Dr. Hayes.
I make a motion we excuse Mr. Hayes.
Support.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Approval of agenda. Any comments? Anything changed?
I'd like to amend the agenda and add number 16 for the Simitech consulting proposal.
We can do that.
I'd like to talk about manager performance. I don't know if Mr. Anderson wants to do that open session or
Yes.
closed. Open? Okay.
So will that be number 17? 17?
Do it during council comments, or I don't believe it's specific.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'm supporting Scott on his.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Approval of minutes, regular meeting, September 5th, 2017. Any corrections?
I make a motion we approve the September 5th, 2017 meeting notes.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes. Approval of manifest 2017-18 in the amount of $281,741.13. Mr. Babalani?
I have a couple, Lee. Let me see here. On the first page, the North Star billing, I know we had talked about some problems. I see there's another 1,029. I know that's contracted services. Was anything figured out on the problem situations that we had with them? Right?
We've been working with them. They're actually here on site today and tomorrow for some training. They offered one guy can stay behind and even be here with us on Wednesday. We've worked through some of those issues. Some of it was the wrong type of work orders that we were using, based on the services we have. So I think we're going to work through, we explained to them our issues, what our concerns were. So we're going to try and work through some of them, and they're going to make some changes to accommodate some of those issues that we've had, especially on the communications side.
Is that costing us extra money for them to stay?
No.
Okay.
And this training that they're here for, there's other communities here, that training was provided free of charge also.
Okay. On page 2, Ray, about a third of the way down, rebuild the top sander for truck number 101A, $4,200. What is the cost of some of these sanders? I mean, if we're just patching, I think we had some major patching, thousands of dollars last year, and I don't know if that's the same sander.
I had a question on that one too, and is there also somebody else besides Peterson Electric that we could deal with in town? Like a loadmaster, would we be able to go with them with the fab department too?
Well, I have talked with Brian about, getting quotes on some of this work. On that particular one, I believe that we did bring that to council. I'd have to look back, but
Okay.
yeah, $4,000, I believe we brought that here. But I did ask him to go out and check pricing.
Do you know if this is the same sander that was rebuilt last year? I'm sure it's not going to be the same part that they're rebuilding, but
I'm not sure.
If we're throwing thousands away every year, maybe we should look at upgrading. Page 5, down in the water fund, Island Resort and Casino, one-night stay for Mr. Ball. I don't understand that, it was $85. We have a pool car, so we wouldn't have to pay mileage. I don't understand why you would stay the night there with that pool car available.
I'd have to look at his schedule, depending on how late they had to stay or how early they had to start, so.
Well, I don't, that's
It's
your...
not the first time that we've done that, both wastewater and water, for their conferences.
But I don't think that makes it right. Hopefully, we get a good explanation, because it's drivable distance, and we have a car that we wouldn't have to pay mileage for. That's all I have.
Mr. Pop?
I got a couple, couple gas things. On the police department, what's this WEX Bank? Who is that? We purchase gas from them, the police department.
That's Marathon.
Marathon.
Oh, Marathon, okay.
That's who we pay.
Also, does each department have 3 cell phones? Because I see in the police department, they have 3. In the general, the department, they have 3. And why would there be 3 per department?
There's just 3 phones total.
That's just 3
The
total.
police have one, the electric department has one, and where's the third one? The mechanic.
Okay.
There's 3 total, but there's 1 charge to each department.
Also, we have in the refuse collection, we have 3 blades then for $53 for Hall's Hardware. What blades? I mean, what?
I'd have to get
What are they?
a description on that.
Where was that one?
That's under the refuse collection on 2 of 7. It's Hall's Hardware for 3 blades for 50, you know. And I just have something to bring up that I went through the gas totals tonight. The Department of Works was $787. The Norway Police Department was $738. The Electric Department was $400, and the Water Department was $500. So between the Water Department and the Public Works, we're at $1,300, which I know there's a lot going on, but I also look at that Water Department, $500, there's a couple other vehicles on there, but the Police Department is 24 hours round, and we're only $100, $150 more than what the Water Department is. I don't know what's going on there, why we're spending so much gas in the Water Department or the Department of Works. It's like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on, but that seems pretty high.
And if you look at the work report that the Public Works and the Water Department had, they were chained tobacco, so they weren't really riding around. So I don't know where the gas went, but if they were chained tobacco and working with tobacco, I don't know.
Well, that's not something that I've been looking at. I just looked at it tonight, and I was like, holy man. You know,
I'll check
this
out
seems pretty,
the equipment that's in charge.
Yeah.
I know that in the past, this was brought up, and we found out that all of the gas for Parks and Rec was being charged to DPW. That's
Yep.
all the lawnmowers, all of that gas, so, we had
which I
asked
would
them to
explain why that
separate
one's a
that
little
out.
bit more.
Yeah.
But you know, that's still more than the police department, who's going 24 hours a day. You know,
Yes,
they're
I understand.
driving around.
But they, you know, if they put the Parks and Rec gas
That's
in that same thing, I mean, they've been cutting nonstop.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And they're still
I'll
going.
double check
I
that,
mean,
though.
because the grass is still growing, there's still things that are growing right now.
Right.
With the
I'll
weather that we're
double
having.
check that.
Okay. That's all.
I have done. I have
Nothing?
done.
A couple points were checked already, but I got just curiosity or more than anything, RA. Under 1.7, under Police Department, this Elcon Systems, under new vehicles, 10-8 video system, $1,700. Was that included in that extra 4,000, or is this something else?
No, that's included in.
That was included, okay. And then quite a ways above that, just like to make a comment on our Scott Kenny there, our auditor. It was mentioned, maybe not necessarily this last time, but the budget hearing before that, that we'd like to get this work put out on bids. When is this contract up? Is it just a yearly thing, or I thought it was 2 years maybe, or
We gave
3
him an
years at a time?
extension.
We gave them an extension because of the rural development projects.
Right. So will that be coming up, or will that something that we'll have to discuss in next budget hearing?
I'll have to look into what his contract is. This might be his last year, or there might be one more year on it, because we did do an extension. I'm not sure if there's, I'll have to look, Lee.
Okay,
We
good.
usually can bring that forward as soon as his audit's officially done.
Okay. And on page 4 here, down on the bottom, Unit 3 hydro wheel inspect, Unit 3 RPLC collector rings. I assume that means replacement. Now, are we done with the work on 3?
Yes, at this point.
At this point, okay. Did that pretty much come into what was budgeted, Ray? Or I should say...
Unit 3
approved?
was not budgeted. It was something we had to deal with, but it's within the total budget.
Within the total,
Yeah.
okay. And just another curiosity question here, page 5. One load of green sawdust. Why do they need green sawdust for down at the wastewater plant?
At the wastewater?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but,
That's for the sludge.
oh, it has to be green sawdust? I'm assuming it's,
I
okay.
believe there's a spec on what they need.
Okay, that's all I have then. We need a motion to approve manifest 2017-18.
I make a motion, we approve manifest 2017-18 in the amount of $281,741.13.
Support.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes.
Mr. Babalani,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini,
Yes.
Mr. Pop.
Yes.
Anybody in the audience would like to come up and have anything to say about any item on our agenda? If not, later on, you will have a chance to speak at the end of the meeting on anything you want. Okay. Item number 7, Sturgeon Falls Hydro Runner Replacement Project Proposals. Ray, you want to take that?
Yes, thank you, Lee. I outlined some additional information from our last meeting. The last meeting had quite a bit of information in the council report regarding the evaluation of the proposals. In the last 2 weeks, we did have a teleconference with Leaderstrove. That was the last company that we needed to talk to. I gave you some information out of that teleconference. I ended up making a secondary phone call based on some questions I had on material, and then I talked about the engineering analysis. Turns out there's a little bit of a difference in how they're approaching the project and NORCAN. It comes to where NORCAN is saying or proposing that we put that outlet tube diffuser in place, create some back pressure onto the blades, and reduces some of that vibration that's going on within the runner, within the blades. When I talk to Leaderstrove, they do not propose that. They're feeling very confident that they can design the runner blades without using the diffuser, and they indicated that there might be actually a drop in efficiency by having that back pressure. So that was an interesting difference between the designs, between the two companies. I did give you a layout of the actual pricing on the proposals, and I thought that was relevant to your decision-making process in looking at the NORCAN proposal, the Canyon proposal, and the Leaderstrove. I think all the way through, we've been leaning towards and recommending NORCAN. However, I think that the differences in analysis and design gives us some pause as to, evaluating which one is actually a better proposal based on that. So I guess I'll open it up to your questions at this point and how you might want to proceed. Also, I did talk with Grant earlier today, and one of the things that we've still been working on in the office is a contract that we're going to be moving forward with, the legal documents, and that's something that we do need to finalize over the next couple of weeks for whoever gets awarded the project. So I think that, with your schedule, Grant, over the last couple of weeks, I think it's been kind of difficult to put that aside or put that in the front of your other duties, but, you know, maybe over the next week, that's something that, you know, we talked about being able to address more thoroughly.
And it is, Ray, and I think that, you know, the council can, you know, depending on the council's pleasure on how they wish to proceed, if they want to have additional information. I know that, you know, frankly speaking, and you and I chatted about this a little bit, and I think you've reached out to some of the council members as well. This is a big decision with a lot of technical issues at play to make a decision that's going to shape the future of the city. So taking a step-by-step approach and doing this with diligence, I think makes sense. And, you know, if council is comfortable at this point with making decisions to choose a contractor provider, you know, I think we just simply indicate that, you know, because each provider is going to have different contract requirements, different requests, will have different requests. And without knowing who we're negotiating with one-on-one, it's difficult to say exactly who that's going to be. If council wishes to make that decision this evening, I would simply request that the council indicates that, you know, you choose to go with X, Y, or Z provider, subject to successful negotiations and being able to enter into a contract. Alternatively, you know, one of the things Ray and I chatted about when he had mentioned, I want to make sure I say the name, Lidistro, you know, referenced coming before the council and making a presentation. I mean, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar project that is paid for by, you know, taxpayer funds. Up to council's pleasure on how to proceed, but having some guidance and having maybe somebody here, maybe for the public to appear and have, you know, I don't want to muck this up and make it into a prolonged issue, but hearing from these folks on some of these very technical issues might be helpful as well. And having, I know each of you research these items extensively and usually come prepared when there is something like this, have that opportunity to question these folks directly with where our taxpayer dollars are going to go.
Recommendation, Ray, yourself and Tim recommended this Norcan?
Yeah, we did recommend Norcan. It's a, you know, mainly because of the pricing, but there's still, you know, both of us question the engineering, you know, to make that recommendation, but not fully understanding where they're coming from in the engineering analysis side. You know, I think we could be comfortable, both Tim and I feel comfortable that if we held off for a couple weeks and you know, completely went through the evaluation, that's probably something that, you know, due diligence. I mean, we're spending $3 million trying to get this fixed, no matter what we do, so.
And I know that, go ahead, Mark.
Reputable companies, Ray, I know they're all reputable companies, but which one would you say would be the top of their league, the top of their industry out of these three?
Leadership.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason I say that is because just the amount, I mean, the size of the company and the amount of work that they do on an annual basis just puts them at the top. Their customer list includes GE, Voight, all the big players in the industry, and you know, they're a very large, very reputable company. Now, I say that doesn't diminish Norcan, and it doesn't diminish Canyon. Canyon Hydro has an excellent reputation on the West Coast, and same way, they deal with very, very large projects. You know, our project is small for those two companies. But again, I'm not...
When you say GE, are they in the hydro business, or are they have something else going on that's in the electrical field, but not actually in the generation?
They're in generation. GE turbines, absolutely. They're big time in the turbine generation business. Maybe not so much strictly hydro. I mean, they have all fuels in how they generate. Heck, I worked with GE, ABB, Isaiah Brown, Bavary turbines back 25, 30 years ago. So, you know, they've been in it a long time. Each one of these is different, even though we're small. our project, it does need to have a complete evaluation because it's like a fingerprint. You know, these, you know, our project is specific to us and to its environment. Again, we go back to our evaluation and our recommendation. If you went with any one of the three, I think that we are winners on this project. The question is, what's the best fit for us out of the three? From a couple weeks ago, you know, we're looking at the proposals and we just felt very comfortable with NORCAN. I think over the last 2 weeks, we got a real good idea of what Leaderstrobe brings, but they're a little more expensive, and so, you know, maybe that due diligence in the project, you know, evaluate them over the next couple weeks. I did talk to both of them, NORCAN and Leaderstrobe, on schedule, and I think that even if we waited a couple weeks, they're going to be able to work with us with at least getting unit number 1 up and running, you know, and so I think we can make the schedule. I talked with Tim about it. He feels pretty comfortable with that approach too. You know, obviously we don't want to have unit 1 down through the winter and then into the spring, but you probably won't take unit 2 out then. The thing is, they'll have the final 2 runners manufactured and here, ready to go as soon as we can, and you know, when the water comes down, and we can take 2 out.
Grant, as far as the liabilities, this company that Leaderstrobe is out of Europe, and the company that was recommended by Ray and Tim is out of Canada. Do you think we would have any support problems if we had if we had to go after them legally, being they're so far away?
Well, support, I mean, I think we look at right at this legal issue, particular if they're filing a lawsuit against either one of these entities. One is going to present some issues, I mean, one being Canada, one being Europe. Because they're doing a project here, we would sue them locally. Hopefully we don't ever have to get to that point or have to even address those issues. I think a lot of times when you get into, and especially this work, they want to make sure that things are done right because their reputation is on the line. But thinking worst case scenario, anytime you're suing a multinational company, it just presents its own issues, not only from a resources standpoint, but layers upon layers of issues to try to bring them to court and deal with them. But it would be in our backyard to address that issue. And that's one of the things Ray and I could chat about. You just put that right into the agreement, that any issues that arise would be litigated here in Dickinson County and address it in that fashion.
You can do that, obviously.
Yeah, you can choose.
And another thing, Mark, too, is that Simutech, having them come in if we had issues, if we had Simutech come in and do that engineering, that would help us out big time too. Because we can fall back on that also if there was any problems. And then for me, I sat in on all these meetings except for the last ones, I couldn't be here. But for me, going through and reading the proposal, red light went off right away. This is...
For NORCAN, you mean?
No.
Or for which one?
For the Leaderstrobe, is that how you say it? Leaderstrobe? Because it's different than what NORCAN was proposing. And to me, I'd like to, I would propose that we, you know, if they can get in here right away and we could talk to them, I think we should talk to them before we make a choice, you know, before we make a choice to go with any of them. That would be my recommendation, and being I sat in on all of them, other than this last one, but just from the proposal and stuff. I mean, like, there's some differences, like, NORCAN is going to subcontract out their engineering, where Leaderstrobe has their own engineer. There's differences in their proposals. And there's other different things too, you know, with the blades.
So, I mean, Canyon is pretty much your third choice, right, Ray?
Yeah, and I just think that they're behind a bit on their full evaluation of what our issues are. I just had the feeling between the three that they didn't put as much effort in providing the proposal. I think that they're more than capable, based on what I've read and reviewed, on making sure that we would have a good product. I just think that these other two have really been aggressive at
I agree with them
understanding.
on that, because I was there when we had the conference with Canyon. There was a lot of, I don't know, I'd have to look into that, you know what I mean? Not a lot of committal at the
Yeah.
time, maybe, I don't know.
Well, they're very unfamiliar with our issue, first of all, and, you know, they have an engineering amount in their proposal, and I think a lot of the questions we were asking, they were confident that they would resolve them, but they weren't going to say anything until after they actually went through the engineering to know what the issues were. And, you
And they
know...
were iffy on the warranty, they weren't quite...
Yeah, they wouldn't give any commitment on a warranty until after, again, after they had a chance to do that analysis that we're referring to. You know, Candy's right that when I reviewed with Norcan the similarities or differences between the design phase of this project with Liederstrove. Liederstrove is a one-stop shop. They have all of the analysis and engineering in-house. Design, Norcan has design, but the engineering analysis part, they subcontract that out. That's different than what we talked about 2 weeks ago, and that's different information than what we had 2 weeks ago. And just, not that I would be nervous about them subcontracting, but when you have somebody in-house doing it, you also have somebody in-house checking it. Whereas if you have somebody that you're contracting, who's checking it? How does Norcan know, you know, who's checking that? If they're taking this person, and from what I understand, the person that they subcontract is viewed as one of the top in the world in this area. So it's not like they're plucking somebody that doesn't have experience. I mean, I read up on this individual. He'd be but he might just be an individual. It might not be a large company. I think, you know, bringing up the idea of Simutech, maybe we put them on now and then have them help us evaluate this design issue in the next 2 weeks. That might be one of the ideas.
Yeah, it would be good to have them come in right away.
Because, quite frankly, I mean, we can have them come in and they can give us, I would recommend having Norcan come in as well. And they present to us and say, this is how we're going to do this job, and here's our evaluation on the baffle or not baffle. Well, even with my engineering background, I mean, that's not my area of expertise, obviously, so it's, how do you argue with them? Whereas if you have somebody looking at it saying, you know, I don't think you're correct in the efficiency issue, or, yeah, they could design it, you know, without the baffle.
And Liederstrove never got to look at the dam, where Norcan came in and talked to us personally and went down and looked at the dam, too.
Yeah. And Norcan, like I said, we still feel like they're front runners. It's just taking that 2-week step back to have that process, so we have everybody hear from them directly. I think would be very good for you making a decision. And just so that you understand too, that the manufacturing engineering does come out of Slovakia, but they have a full-service office in Montreal. That's the people that we deal with are actually out of Montreal. And then they have this HCMS this company that they're actually out of, one of their offices is in Wisconsin. That person is going to be handling the field portion. So, I mean, they do have some local presence, what I call local. So between Norcan and Liederstrove, they still can get here relatively the same way.
Grant, I had asked about the time penalty delay for the workmanship, that if it wasn't completed on a timely manner. Has anything been brought forth with any of the companies? Are they on board? Are they willing to? Because that saved our butts a couple times with past contractors.
Right. I mean, frankly, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary with having some time constraints and some performance requirements from people we're involved in with these types of situations. I haven't spoken directly with them at this point about it, but I'd suggest it's not really all the ordinary to say, here's a time frame, here's, you know, talking to them about when is it going to get kicked off, when is it going to start, setting up appropriate and realistic guidelines, and having some incentive-based or penalty-based items in there. I really don't think that's anything out of the ordinary that they'd be shocked about or would be blown away by if that request was made. I might be wrong, but I don't think that that's anything that's all out of the ordinary for some of these larger scale projects.
One thing that, there are two things that we have to review when we do liquidated damages. The first is that we're going to have to look at what the actual cost to us is if they are late. That's something we'll have to develop. The second is, and it's very common, especially with large companies, to say, okay, we'll take LDs, but is there an incentive portion? So if we come in a month ahead of time, are we going to get a bonus? You know, and I think that's something, just be prepared if they ask, because that's very common. If you're putting LDs on them, then
But you
it should have
also
some
have to
incentives.
look at it, if we don't make the runoff, it's more of a penalty to us, but if they come in a month earlier than the runoff, we don't really gain a real lot. We gain some, but we're not gonna gain a lot. So I don't see where you would have to put an incentive in there if they finish early. You just want it by the runoff time when we could be penalized with losing a lot of money in the flow.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we offer it. What I'm suggesting is, we're just saying is,
They're gonna want.
don't be surprised, because it's common in the industry, okay? And I guess we would have to look at, and have an honest look at, if we can run, yeah, what would be the benefit? If we could run, if the river's running like this year, it'd be a huge benefit to us. You know, we'd be generating more. So sometimes it just comes down to factors at that time.
Right? Just for the benefit of the council, I think some of you guys, and people are interchanging the words liquidated damages and penalties. They're not the same. Liquidated damages are usually to cover any financial damage to you if the contract doesn't get done on time. Financial damage could possibly be not being able to generate. Penalties are a little different. In my experience, and I'm not sure, in my experience over a long time, is that if you have penalties, which are a little different than liquidated damages, that's where the incentive comes in on the other side. We have liquidated damage clauses in contracts we have going down. Okay? And penalties, you don't have to usually justify a loss. Penalties are penalty. You don't have to show that you lost anything. But with liquidated damages, if it goes to court, you have to show how you were financially damaged to collect. Like putting an operator on 2 months before a project's supposed to be done at a new wastewater treatment plant, and the contractor 2 months late, and you could have waited 2 months to put that guy on. You were damaged. You got 2 months worth of salary that you wouldn't have had. That's the kind of thing that comes into play with that. So there's a difference between those two.
Well, then you would almost have to, what I would be thinking, and Grant, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you would be better off to go with the penalty, because the proof of the height of the water and the runoff that you would be losing is going to be hard to put down on paper, as far as I would think. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I just think that documenting the height of the water that you would have as a loss is going to be tough.
It could be, but once you start getting into the penalty word, that's when the incentive counter word comes up.
It can be done, though. We did that with the insurance company. We had to go through and we had calculations. You're dealing with flow, and you're dealing with units on, off, how you handle your license. There's a lot of factors to it. It's complicated, but it's math. It's a calculation of all of those factors. And so if we don't have access to units after a certain date, we have to show how we've been damaged, by not having access. I mean, we can change the vernacular of it, the penalty, but that comes down to negotiation, and that's a good question to ask them. Are you willing to have a contract that has some kind of a penalty language in it?
As far as I'm concerned, next to the craftsmanship of the project, the warranty is right there, right
Well,
next to it. So
you
I
see,
mean-
they had two different approaches on the
Yeah, I
warranty.
see that.
Yeah. And Norcan's warranty is not as expensive, as Lita Strobe's, and so those are very good questions to ask, off the face of it. I'd feel more comfortable dealing with Norcan on the warranty. But, we'd have to ask the question is, can you work on lowering that warranty?
Well, I read in here someplace that for, was it $450,000, they
Yeah.
could give you a 5-year warranty?
Yeah.
But yet, talking with Norcan and this other one, you're gonna have problems, you're gonna have them within the first 2 years.
Well, that's what they do indicate,
So-
and even Leaderstrove indicates that, within the first couple of years, you're gonna see if you're having problems, so.
I like the leader stroll here. There's some stuff that was brought up that I hadn't known anything about. I mean, the biggest thing here is their specialty is analysis and design of new runners, and that's what this is gonna be, where Norcan is basically, their history is repair and refurbishment.
That's what they started as, they've grown, and so they do have the design capabilities, like I said, it's the analysis part, the upfront part that they
And
contract
I
out.
realize Leader Stroll is a bigger company, but bigger does not necessarily mean better.
Right.
But I would like to see the differences here where they're talking, the design approach is not to have restricting baffle for Leader Stroll. They're talking you'll lose efficiency if you do put a baffle in it. Well, what are we going from, 95% to 85%? With or without the baffle? I would like to know that figure,
There's a
because
lot of
even that
questions.
1% or 2% down the road could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I believe you misspoke, Mr. Carlson, when you said that the taxpayers would be paying for this. It will be the ratepayers that will be paying for this, the electric ratepayers, not taxpayer money.
Well said.
So, are we pretty much in agreement to
Postpone
postpone it,
till the
table it
next meeting.
till the next meeting?
I make a motion to postpone the runner replacement project till our next meeting on, do we have a date? What is it? Do you know the date? Our next meeting?
October 2nd.
October 2nd,
October 2nd.
2017. And then that we would get Leader Strobe hopefully in here before that time. And maybe Norcan too, depending on what you guys.
Yeah, they'll come in. I would try to set up a meeting next week,
Okay,
early next week.
okay.
Support.
Mr. Bobelani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes,
Next item, approval DPW equipment purchase. I believe, Ray, this is the truck body that we got from the fire department, that was the tanker.
This is
And
the
now we've got
tanker, yeah.
practically a brand-new truck body, and you wanted to...
Yeah,
What
they
would
were
it
going to retrofit this particular unit into a plow truck, and when they went out and started getting quotes, costs, it was advised by a number of different truck companies that you don't want to make it into a plow truck because the body isn't designed originally for that. So they went back and they looked at what their needs were, and they thought that it would be still very helpful if we then retrofitted this into a dump truck that would be able to carry the leaf units and basically be a secondary dump truck. So they went out for bids on that. You can see in the attached report from Rick Driver exactly what they were doing with this truck. And they got one bid in from Olson for $34,232. Just wanted to make note that our budget does have $60,000 because that's what we were looking at spending for retrofitting this to a plow truck.
what's the price of a new one? About?
Oh, 280, probably, 250.
For a new plow truck, you mean?
Just a new
Not
dump truck.
Just a new dump?
I think it's up there in that range, 200,000.
Well, I just don't like the idea there's only one bid, you know?
But that's all we got, though.
Yeah, I realize that, but I still don't like the idea there's only one bidder on it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good idea. The truck's in good shape, and I don't think we should let it go to waste.
And it's within budget, we had budgeted.
Yeah.
I make a motion, we approve the dump box deal for Olson Trailer and Body LLC for a price not to exceed $34,232.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Next item, USDA RDWWTP project, the SCADA proposal. Ray?
Bruce, you wanna, take this one? This one is from, as part of our wastewater plant project, we have a SCADA portion, monitoring portion of the project. Bruce has been working on this since day one, so.
Yeah, this is the Jeff Tolsma thing, and this is totally my doing, I guess. When we got, way back when this project first got funded, we got in the design phase, I brought up to Ray that I thought it was worth looking at having Jeff Tolsma be involved as much as possible in the SCADA control work down there. I've worked with Jeff before, he's an instrument, and there was two reasons why I thought that was a good thing to consider. One was, I highly respect his technical capabilities. He's very sharp, he's done a lot of work around the UP, and he's very, very good, and he's very well thought of. The second thing is, and this is before the advent of some other people you now have involved working with you. This was before Mr. Fairchild was involved and so on. But he was around and he was local to take care of things when problems came up down the road. Because the other alternative would have been probably to have Mead and Hunt personnel design this stuff, this control stuff. And I really felt that Jeff, based on what I knew, would be probably a more practical approach and a better approach for the city. So my suggestion to look at this was what I thought was in the best interest of the project.
And this would be included in the project?
Yes, yes, yes. This is part of, will be part of the funding.
Okay.
So it's, you know, he's more of just a designer. You know, Jeff is actually installer, maintenance, ongoing type of guy. And he really knows his stuff. And when that first came up, Joe was still here. And the city was using, Ray, I don't remember, somebody that was involved at the time. And there was a little bit of skepticism, both on Joe's part and Ray's part, because they didn't really know this guy. But once Jeff got down here, started talking to the folks, everybody got really comfortable with him real quickly. So he's involved, so that's the story.
What did Jesse, didn't he work on the SCADA system out there and then down at the hydro plant?
Well, yeah, since we started the design of this, he's come on board. And he is actually, his plan now that he's here, he's actually going to do some of the stuff for Jeff because he's right here at Jeff's instrument.
Okay.
So
Because
he's gonna have
Jesse
some
can't do
involvement.
this part of it?
Pardon?
Jesse can't do this part of it?
I don't know what, I'm not looking
Well,
at you again, so I don't know.
when we originally,
The proposal that you just gave us?
Yeah, he may be doing some of it for Jeff.
what happened, Candy, is when we started, you know, working with Jeff Tolsma, we didn't have Jesse around to help. And one of the things, when Jesse came on board, we started getting much more comfortable with what Jesse could offer. We actually got those guys together. And so he's part of this proposal.
Okay.
And actually, he's probably taking some of the work from Jeff, and Jeff doesn't have any problem with it because
No.
he's so busy, so Jeff's gonna handle the major design portion of it. And the other thing is, Jeff's, prior to having his own company, actually ran wastewater treatment plant up in Ishpeming. So, you know, when I asked him, I said, well, what information do we need? He knows exactly what we need. He knows what you need, and manager or the council, that's a valuable portion. I mean, so we got the players together so that, you know, Jesse can do what he does best, but he'll do it under Jeff's main contract. That's-
You have a lot of good stuff going on right now with the folks involved, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Because it's complicated. It's real complicated.
I'll
So,
make,
that's kind of the story.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Pop?
No, got none.
I believe we need a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the SCADA control proposal from Talsma Control, not to exceed $107,312.72.
I got one more question. Do we have to do any wiring or whatever through GoTech or anything like that with this proposal?
It's included within this proposal, any of the networking that has to be done. We made sure Jeff knew that if he has to get that support, he needed to talk to Chris, if he had to do any networking in there. So
But that's part of the proposal?
That's all part of this, yeah. There won't be anything outside of this. Like, we won't get a GoTech request after the fact.
There
Or
is some
Jesse's.
stuff that B&B Electric's doing under the unlock contract, running a conduit and stuff, so they're involved too.
But that's in
But
their
that's all
contract
part of
already.
this proposal? We're
No,
not-
that's part of Gunlock's work.
Yeah, that's already in there.
Whatever B&B Electric is doing is coming under Gunlock's work.
Okay. But that is not part of
So
this?
GoTech will be under his.
It would be under his, yeah. He would manage any networking that has to be done.
Good question, Candy. I believe we got a motion made by Mark. Somebody going to second?
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Bugalaani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes. Next item, approval USDA RD water project pay request in the amount of $381,401.21. Ray?
Well, yeah, the next four items are basically the pay requests that we get at the second meeting of every month for the water, sewer, wastewater plant, and then our local share. So we can take them one at a time.
Yeah, okay. I believe we need a motion, unless there's some questions.
I make a motion, we approve the, USDA RD water project pay request not to exceed $381,401.21.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Bugalaani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
USDA RD sanitary sewer project pay request in the amount of $352,018.52. Any questions?
I make a motion to USDA RD sanitary sewer project request not to exceed the amount of $352,018.52.
Support.
Mr. Bugalaani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Next item, USDA RD WWTP project pay request in the amount of $439,610.75.
I'll make the motion USDA RD WWTP project pay request not to exceed the amount of $439,610.75.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Bugalaani?
Yes.
Okay, next item, water sewer project local share pay request. Ray, you want to take that?
Yeah, this is, again, this is similar to the last three that we went through. We had a local, what we call local share, which is the surface paving portions of project jobs where they weren't covered under the water and sewer project. So we, the council appropriated that extra monies for, for this work.
Were these the side streets now, or
Yeah, these are
the
well,
in-betweens?
we didn't get into this is, like on 7th Avenue, we had a little extra work that we did already. And then, was it Main to
This is kind of.
Norway Street?
Grouping a lot of miscellaneous stuff prior to.
But it's all pavement, but this will be the same thing when we get into the crush and shape work.
Yeah, concrete pavement removal and preparation of doing more work and stuff.
Yeah. The majority of work that comes after this now is going to be what we originally decided to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't there attached to that rate, isn't there a breakdown of the taxes?
Yeah. I think it's on the last page there, I believe.
I'll make a motion, water sewer project, local share pay request not to exceed $12,584.93.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Minigini?
Yes. Next item, approval, Parks and Recreation Restricted Fund Transfer. Ray?
This is something that's come through during our audit, that we still have $34,000 roughly restricted for the tennis court. And where that comes is that early on, before we even started the project, we had a MyRec sale, and the council approved tagging those MyRec sale dollars to the tennis courts. During the course of the project,
Where did that MyRex come from? Was that the cutting of the trees?
no, that's energy credits that we get for, under state law, we're
I thought
required
we
to.
were putting that in the, into the electric fund.
Well, we have, but the previous
Council?
council,
Oh,
yeah, approved it to go to Parks and Rec, and specifically the tennis courts. So during that time, we raised funds, and we have this $34,000 left. So I didn't put any amount total, other than you need to unrestrict the $34,651. And then you guys can decide if you want to put it all back in the electric fund, you can. The minimum, or the maximum, actually the maximum without taking other funds would be $34,065. So that, there's a little more, there's a $34,651. So I don't think you should put $600 back in electric fund, that would be from somewhere else. But it's up to the council as to whether you put it back in the electric, or you reserve it for something other than the
What
electric.
what about the money from the cutting of the trees? Did that go into Parks and Recs down by the dam?
Yeah, that one you reserve to the Marion Park.
Now, Ray, if we take this money and put it back into the electric fund, can we just have it kind of earmarked, well, hey, in case we need it because of all these issues we have down there, that we can pull it back out and put it into Park and Recs for some,
I think you can.
I mean, once you transfer it in, that's it?
No, you can do.
You could make that decision on an annual basis. I mean, you could, without this, you could do that in the electric.
Well, I would kind of like to personally hold it in that electric fund, because we don't know for sure what's.
I agree with
What's
you.
going on down there, I
And
mean.
and then
you
if
know.
we know where we're at, or whatever, maybe we can earmark it towards the park for the new field or something like that.
No.
Ray, is there, some additional expenses that we're gonna have this year out of that, though, weren't there? There's the plaque we gotta pay for.
We have enough in our general
Okay.
recreation that,
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we weren't gonna unrestrict it all, because I thought there were some things.
no,
this year.
I think we have enough, like the $651 that you would have, or the $600, shy of $600. I mean, if you want to just keep that in general recreation, you could.
Didn't we pay for the plaque with Ortman's?
Yes, we're done with that. We just have to,
It was just done this year. It was done after July 1st.
yeah.
We paid for that in July.
Yeah, so that would have to actually come out of, but we could actually take that out of general recreation.
So what are you saying? You want to keep 600 back out of the 34,651?
Well, the maximum that you can put back in the electric fund is 34,065, so
Yeah.
the remainder of whatever, the remainder is 90-some dollars, or $590-some dollars, you could put back, you know.
Leave that in
leave
Parks and
park.
Rec.
I'll make a motion, we put the $34,065 into the electric fund and leave the remainder into the Parks and Recs.
Support,
Mrs. Brew,
yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Next and last item. Proposal for additional local share work, Revision 2, USDA RD Water Sewer Project. Ray?
Yeah, this is something that came up over the last couple meetings, where we wanted to make sure that we accounted for any of the streets, additional streets, while Baco was still in town. When I reviewed the streets that we had left, which are quite a few, but most of them, especially around the project area, had some type of water or sewer infrastructure in the area or under the street. And I'm not sure you want to go in and crush and shape something where we have to deal with the water and sewer, probably
Down the
sooner or
road.
later. So we did talk about scenic, and that's that section from US 2 back to the intersection of Valley View. That was a $25,000. And then there was a request to get a cost for what it would take to pave Strawberry Lake Road. And that's supposed about 1,800 feet on Strawberry Lake Road. I did talk to Baco, and one of the things we can do to help lower the cost of the original estimate was we could use, our gravel, and we could bring our gravel down. They don't have any issue with that.
Is that the proper grade 2 or whatever?
Yeah, it would be
Whatever.
fine for that type of road, for sure. So right now, the estimate is $75,000. I would advise or recommend that we approve that amount, but I think we're going to be able to get that down lower because we'll be able to use our own gravel. I talked to Dave, we have enough to handle that and not put ourselves in any kind of jeopardy.
Did you want to touch base on the grant project that we have for Strawberry Lake, and this does not include anything for the road?
Originally, we had in a grant project this road, and because it's not a park road, it's actually a pass-through, the DNR would not include it in as eligible. We do have parking lots that are getting paved. There's like 3 parking lots getting paved in our grant project, so I think it would look out of place to have paved parking lots and then a gravel road. Plus, we do get quite a few complaints about the dust when they're down at the park and people drive through. So I think it would definitely complement the project we're having next year at Strawberry Lake by doing this job.
It might even get the baseball field down on the end a little bit more use. I know it's used heavily, but it might get a little bit extra.
Yeah, and
Clean up that area.
And the grant has work on that baseball field to clean it up. So, the improvements will be made down there.
So it'll go down to that split,
Yes.
right past,
Yeah,
going
and-
past the ball field there?
Yes, in my report, I show go past the baseball field to the split.
Well, I agree with you, Ray. It'd be nice to have that done, and we definitely have to do something there, up there on Scenic Drive on that corner. Now you have the new culvert in there, and it's just gravel. That part of it's gonna have to be done, for sure.
Ray, I'm looking at Fifth Avenue there, and on your map here, you have drawn up to, it'd be that alleyway in between mine and Section. But it says it goes all the way from Main to Section. Is that?
Yeah, on this map, we showed it going all the way to Section. But we did that project a number of years ago, and I think the original reason we had those last 2 blocks added was that we didn't put that slurry coat on those last 2.
Okay.
but the pavement is still in pretty decent
Pretty
shape.
good
shape,
Yeah.
yes,
Is that
it
why you
is.
didn't go
Very
in
good
then
shape.
Okay.
So I'm not
That's
sure, so
essential.
we can just go up to the alleys, I think, on
Okay.
those two.
Ray, you said that the width on that Valley View corner, where they just changed the culvert, is gonna be a little bit increased?
Yes,
On the corners?
that's, they increased it a little bit already with the, installing the culvert, and so we plan on making that wider around that corner.
Will there be guardrails put on the inside of that corner?
We don't have guardrails
We don't have.
in any of the proposals.
Well, I mean, that's what happened the last time, they kept cutting the corner and,
Your guardrail isn't for falling off, your guardrail is to keep them on the,
you know.
yeah.
There's some pretty hefty posts in the ground now they put in today.
Okay, I haven't been, I saw them working down there, but I didn't go by.
Yeah, you still might want to put a guardrail there, though. I don't know.
We can evaluate it,
I don't think people purposely go in there, I think they accidentally go in there.
Right, they just keep cutting that corner. I mean, the culvert failed because it started to rust, but with the traffic there, they just keep cheating to the inside and more and more and
Right.
more, and,
There's some pretty hefty posts. If they take the corner close now, they're gonna realize it.
we'll be able to find out who it is real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll check it out tomorrow morning.
Could you still get us a price on a guardrail there? Doesn't have to
can
be
get
all
you
the
some
way around,
prices.
at least on that corner part.
Now, this total price here, Ray, that's what we had committed to, doing the
yes.
extra work? Okay. And how much of that have we spent so far?
Let me check our,
It was here someplace, you know.
yeah, it was in that last pay request.
Yeah.
Spent to date $38,422.
Okay.
I think it's a real wise move that we're doing this because the price of asphalt is down right now.
Now's the time to do it, no question about that.
I make a motion, we approve the Baco payment, the additional $100,000 for a price not to exceed $372,949.
Support.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes,
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes,
that concludes all our items. Is there anybody? Oops.
Semitech we added on.
Oh, okay, I got the wrong copy here. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. Semitech proposal for design assistance. We had it at the last meeting, we turned them down, so Mrs. Brule, Mr. Pop, Mr. Babalani, any comments? Why it's back on the
I'm thinking
agenda?
about this now, thinking about the two different wordings in these contracts. I'm kind of going back on my word. Last time I was against it. I don't know if I'm against it or for it. I like it brought up from our conversation. With both different, like I said, the different patterns that these engineers are coming up with, it might be wise to go with another firm or another something to back them up.
Well, I do believe it was mentioned at the last council meeting that this would be like an insurance policy. That was my own personal feeling, and I know it was another $28,000, $30,000, whatever it was exactly, but I strongly felt that we should go with this to make sure we got this whole mess done
Yeah, it
right.
makes me a little nervous now.
And I agree with that, I mean, yeah, it's $28,000, we cannot go in the same direction we did last time and not get this project done right.
But like we said before, what's gonna happen if this company and the company that's giving us the warranty have different thoughts? You're
Well,
gonna
even
get-
if you
you're
have a
gonna
warranty,
get
there's
the-
something wrong, you're still gonna have to have somebody prove that it was wrong. Others, they can continue to say it's not wrong.
But they're gonna, I mean, I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know how they would be able to take, if they're totally, once they hash it out, once they have major discussions, if the two engineering parts of this project are not seeing it the same way, the company that's doing the project is going to do it their way.
Right, and if it's done wrong, and we had another engineer in here telling them that they did it wrong, and we go to court, that is going to help us
But
big
we're
time.
still, if they're not going to, if we have to go to court, Grant, correct me if I'm wrong, there would be other engineering people involved at that point in time for proving that it wasn't handled correctly.
Anytime you go to court, obviously you're going to have experts that are going to be testifying, and I understand where you're coming from as well, Mark, on this issue. I mean, I looked through this that was provided to council as a follow-up letter, and I think they gave 2 examples on how in the past they were able to catch problems, you know, that the designer had made, and then catch problems before the install. And one time the runners were actually, looks like they were shipped, and they made them ship them back. You know, I don't, if you go to litigation, there's going to be plenty of experts involved that are going to be addressing this. I think what I'm hearing or trying to work through with council as far as all of your perspectives is perhaps trying to avoid litigation in the first place, which is the goal of everybody, I think, on something like this. And if there's any issues beforehand, try to work them out. And I would hope that, you know, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on this one, so of course, I'm just your attorney. I don't take a position, but I look at and listen to this, and I would hope that if, say, Litterstraw does some design work, and then Semitech takes a look at it and says, hold on a minute, I'm seeing some flaws here, I would hope that the engineers would get together,
Work together.
put aside their egos, and look and say, we just want this to be done right, and work together to resolve this thing. Maybe I'm just optimistic and believe in people putting aside their stubbornness, but one of the other things too, and I talked to Ray about this, you know, whether or not this is appropriate or not with the reviewing this thing, talking about just whether or not it's something that the council should not consider, and Councilman Pop brought this up again for discussion. Trying to analyze and help guide you folks, and basically have an engineer on staff in your corner that helps to guide. Having, you know, you have me here as your counsel to be able to help guide through and work through some of the legal issues. I look through these proposals and I look through some of the language, and as an attorney, it's Greek to me because it has language that I don't understand what it is, and I don't know if you folks do or not. But the one potential benefit for having this group on board would be to have somebody in our corner, an engineer in our corner. And I don't know if that's what the design of this is what the purpose of it is, but I'm not an engineer, so I would rely upon an engineer's guidance.
Ray, what was the numbers for the total project? Total numbers for down at the hydro for this particular project?
Well, they range from 2.8 million to 3 million.
Okay. What was the numbers from the wastewater plant?
Just the plant, 5.8 million.
So I guess I don't understand why we're second guessing the company. I know we've had problems down there.
We're not
but-
second guessing the company.
While you're second guessing the engineering, or you want the insurance, when you have a $2.8 million project and you're looking for reassurance that they're doing the right thing, and you have a project that is almost, well, it is double, for real close to double, $5.8 million on a restoration project of a 1960 vintage wastewater plant, it's double the project. Why wasn't an engineer looked at for that then? It's a restoration project, you have potential, you have a lot of moving parts down there. It's not like the street sewer project which is kind of a cut and dried project.
How much was put into this dam?
$8 million.
Total. Because it wasn't
That's
proper engineering.
And it wasn't done right. I mean, this doesn't have to do with the other project. I don't know why an engineer didn't come in for that project, but I'm here to say that, you know, the council spent $8 million, it wasn't done right. I think $28,000 of that project, to have another engineer come in and check it out, is well worth it. I don't want to be in the same situation we were in last time. And not only that, now you got two different companies going in a little bit of different directions, you know, so you might be able to look at Simutex and go, well, you know, Simutex going this way or that way. It's not to compare or fight with anybody. And we also could very well get them in to work together and say, you know, this is what I thought, why did you do it this way or whatever. I don't think 28,000 out of over 3 million it could cost us. A little, having another company who's not making the money off of it to engineer it.
Well, one of the recommendations, if you were to approve that, I would recommend bringing them on tomorrow and having them review both proposals, because you have a different design approach that they're presenting. And, you know, Simutex are already up to speed because they did the CFD and FE initial analysis for us in that first report. And actually, that report was some of the basis for how we talked with these three firms to get to this point. So I would like, if you were to move forward, use them right away to help us evaluate, you know, so when they come in, because if they come in and you know, one company will tell you all of the virtues and the positives, negatives of the baffle, the positives are not, this and that, it will sound really good. Then NORCAN will come in and will give you all the reverse benefits and so on and so forth, and I guarantee you it will sound really good. Because, you know, I mean, I understand some of the conversation that they're having, you know, on the technical side, but I can't tell them they're wrong. You know, we can't, none of us can. I mean,
But
we
you know,
just don't
you
have the
look at
background.
you're saying the $8 million that we spent on the hydro, but we didn't spend it wisely. We didn't spend it wisely. We had people that were making the calls that aren't employed here anymore, that maybe the right calls were not made. I'm not sure if they were made. Maybe they weren't, with no engineering background. So you know.
Well, we might have got more money out of that if we would have had this done the first time.
Well, from what I understand, it was a design flaw. And I mean, the people who did it, the guy owned, I don't know how many hydros he owns around the country. Everybody took his word for it. It was 207, was that right? 2007, I believe? Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, 10 years ago.
And then we also just put that 34,000 in there. You could take that 34,000 that we just took out of Parks and Rec, and there's your insurance policy.
But we may need that money for something else.
To repair it if we don't get a second opinion on
Well, it goes up for
engineering.
sale if something else happens to it.
Well, like I said before, I'm looking at it as an insurance policy. I don't like insurance, but you gotta have it, and I strongly believe we should go along. with
I wouldn't
Sept.
change my mind on this until I see two different engineering reports on that, or two different proposals.
Till you talk to Lita Stroll, whatever their name is.
Yeah.
So then we just table it for now then?
We can make,
They beef up the dock.
What's that?
I think this is probably before the council with the amended agreement, or the amended
Well, I think
agenda. The last time Doc, or the mayor, was here, and he voted against it. My only question was, I need to talk to Doc about it, because
but
it
then
was
that doesn't give us the time to get them in before the other companies.
understood. I'm just raising it as a thought process of both.
Well, what would it cost just to say, just tell Simutech, hey, guys, come on in, we'll just pay you for whatever to start until we can make the decision? Would there be a huge cost to that? They wouldn't do it,
I don't-
probably.
Well, I don't know, I wouldn't say they wouldn't do it. I don't know what their costs would be. I would definitely not $28,000.
Yeah.
It might be $1,500, you know, something on that order to help us review the proposals.
To review them?
Probably, yeah. I
But
mean,
they're
I
not
feel a
gonna-
lot more comfortable in answering a totally different design, or evaluating a totally different design concept having someone like this, walk me through that.
Yeah.
And we could ask the companies when they come in, then we would have the questions to ask them, to justify. And we might find out that both are right.
Will they do that? Simutech?
I think they
Without doing the
would.
whole proposal?
I think they would, just to help us with the proposal. I mean, they definitely want to help us out through the whole project, but I think they understand where we're at. When I talked to them after we've turned it down, they understood, they were disappointed because they did that first work and they wanted to, make sure that we.
But are they gonna charge us more? And I mean, because the other one was a part of a bid altogether for everything, right?
I don't believe that in their initial proposal that they were evaluating proposals. I think they were just putting the time in for evaluating the designs, the analysis.
So we could just go ahead and have them review the proposals and then
We could do that. I think we could do that, but I don't know what the dollar figure is. I mean, if you say up to $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever it is, then I'll just tell them, you can review the proposal, but don't charge more than that. I'm taking a guess what a couple of guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get them in here before we get this other company in here in 2 weeks to explain, just so they can look things over instead of having everything.
Well, I would just send
That
them,
day.
I would just send them the proposals and say, could you review these? And then we'll have a conversation about.
going ahead with the engineering or not too.
One of the proposals that NORCAN actually threw out too was that, if we did have Simutech checking and evaluating or checking that analytical side of this project, that it might not be the full $28,000 if they're taking the calculations that NORCAN's contractor has and then checking and evaluating it. So I'm not sure.
So it might be less.
It might actually be less than the 28. Maybe you start with these guys just evaluating the proposal for a couple $1,000s, and then we could say, look at, if that's the proposal, or if that's what we want out of them, maybe it's not $28,000. Maybe we just say, is there a number just to look at the calculations, just to make sure that, your analysis and those analysis match up.
So how am I gonna make the most of this? Well, how do I word this? How do I word this?
It's complicated. This is a very complicated decision all the way around, and that's what makes it difficult.
Councilman Pops asked the question of how to properly word a proposal, if that's,
Yeah.
if
We gotta have,
if
we
you
gotta
were,
look
if
at
you were
it.
interested in making a motion on that regard, my suggestion would be something effective, make a motion to approve Simutech Group to review and analyze the two proposals and provide guidance to the council over the technical aspects of both of them, comparing and contrasting them up to a certain amount on time and materials, whatever the council is comfortable with, or whatever you're proposing.
And maybe with the possibility of getting the whole thing, would that?
Okay, can I make the motion what Grant just said?
Mary got it.
It's on tape, you're okay.
Yeah,
Up to a certain amount.
up to a certain amount.
Well, whatever that.
What, I would say, I'd say 5,000. Up to 5,000. Not to exceed 5,000.
Support.
Mr. Metagini?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
No.
Okay, that concludes all our items here. Anyone?
He had one more item.
So it's gonna be,
Under council comments.
Oh, under council comments.
Under council comments, yeah. Anybody from the audience have any comments, questions on any item? Mr. Hawkinson?
Well, I told you 2 meetings ago that I would keep you updated on our inspection costs. Remember that conversation? Okay, before that, I will tell you that tomorrow, Payne and Dolan's coming in as a sub to Baco to do all the pulverizing on the streets that are the additional streets that are gonna get work. So, you see a lot of flurry of stuff going on. Okay, so we've got another month under our belt. The numbers that you saw on the pay requests that you approved had our time through August. And we now have about $80,000 left to cover September and October. Now, month before last, we had 40-some thousand. Last month, if you add those two numbers up, it's about 50. But Terry, because there's been a lot of overtime, Terry is starting to cut back on his hours as appropriate as he can, because we're getting down to not so much stuff going on in so many places. There's gonna come a time when he probably won't have to be here every day even. And if there's some minor things to check, since I'm here in town, I can really do that instead of him chasing up there. So it's a little hard to tell for sure, but we could get a little thin as we get down into October, in the second part of October. So I don't have anything that I'm gonna suggest you do tonight. I'm gonna try to get, your meeting is really early in October, but I'm gonna try to get some cost accounting information as best we have it through maybe 3 weeks in October and see where we're at. So at your meeting, first meeting in October, I may, come and say we need to look at allocating a few more dollars. I think we're gonna be all done by the end of October, but we don't know.
Sure, I hope so.
Well, that's what we're looking at. We did hold off a little bit on the go-ahead on Walnut, because we wanted to make sure we had budget. We've done that. They're going to be starting that next Monday. That's a couple-week affair. And their plan has moved to Waseda, and so we don't know for sure the schedule. I haven't been told, but you're going to see some, next couple of weeks, I think you're going to see some paving going on, and they can do a lot of paving in a couple of days. Curbs are coming along. They're going to finish the services up where they are hopefully by the end of this week, or maybe spilling into a couple of days next week. So I think in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a lot of stuff coming together. So, yeah, I think we're...
Well, I believe what I want to hear, and I'm sure the rest of the council would like to hear, that we're ahead of schedule and under budget.
Well, I can tell you that I think the schedule's going to be about where we talked. But we actually could be under budget, but that's not necessarily a good thing, especially on the sanitary sewer side, because you've got a significant grant there. So if we're under budget, you're going to be giving back grant money. So it's a catch-22. It's too early to tell. When we get next time around, a month from now, when we have the next round of pay estimates, we're going to start zeroing in on stuff that's left. Terry did some math in order for us to feel comfortable with the Walnut Street thing, but it's a little early to know exactly where we're going to be. I think the water is probably tighter than the sewer side, because we've added, we've deleted, we've done a lot of stuff, but we're not in trouble. As we see it, we're not in trouble at all.
So basically, all that rain never really held you back.
It was an impact. I think what happened is, to be honest, I think if they got a couple weeks behind schedule, they made it up. It's hard to do, but that's what we saw. There was a point in time where we thought they were a week and a half, 2 weeks behind, but back in that, it's so hard to predict it. I think it's coming along fine. We're getting out of the woods with the pipe and the problems, day-to-day problems that we have to address. So next couple of weeks, it's going to, between the curbing crews and the flat work crews and some paving, they get in here for 2 days with a paver, and you're going to see a lot of stuff. It's the second course on a bunch of streets plus the first course on a bunch of streets. So.
I guess I'd like to say hats off to the restoration crew. because they're doing an amazing job. It looks like they got some good topsoil here this time.
Yeah.
It's not gravel.
We gave him a shot. At one of our progress meetings, Candy might have been there, but we told him we weren't going to pay him 22A prices for the topsoil.
Yeah.
Looks
good.
They resolved it. We did have a question come up where we had it put out on the TV thing about fertilizer is, the people have to be aware of factors, fertilizer going down, no different than if Bex or you were doing your own, but you need to be aware of children and pets running around on that stuff. The other thing that I think I'd like to remind folks, because we are on TV, it'd be really nice if the people can buy into the watering aspect of the new areas that are seeded. Contractors got responsibilities to do that, but it gets very tough sometimes, depending how the weather goes. Fortunately, we'll get enough rain, so that won't be a big issue. But who knows? So if they can help out, that would be good. But yes, it is looking good, and we've encouraged them to keep going on that. So, there's a lot of things to wind up a project at the end. We're gonna have to do balancing change order, and there's a lot of paper to do, and there's punch list items, potentially not many, because we try to keep up with those as we go. So, it's coming. It's gonna look really nice before very long. Little streets, and I think you folks are I would commend you for taking it upon yourself to do these other sections of streets. The in-between streets, you're putting a lot of money into that, and that's really gonna help those areas of town look really nice. So, as a taxpayer, I think you're doing the right thing with all that. Any questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Well, that concludes that. Let's, under comments, Mr. Pop, any comments?
I have none for tonight.
Mrs. Brew?
I have none.
Mark?
I got a couple. Had a couple questions for Ray. There's a water leak that's been leaking since the first week in June. That's over by the salt shed by the old ice rink. I don't understand it. When we went through the automated meter project, we were trying to recap the loss of water. And this over here has been leaking since first week in June, and it's still leaking. There's a cone over there, and I don't understand it.
Well, like I put in one of the memos, they, evaluated timing of when we could get in, and that's a big job. That's a 12-inch line, and it's coming out of a 12-inch valve. So when the guys are tied up on the project, we can't afford to take 2-3 days away from that project to deal with that. So, we've got it on our list of items, and Dave was going to hit that as soon as he felt comfortable that he could, not have to be addressing some of the tie-in issues in the water project.
I look at the schedule for the DPW, and then I ride through town, and I'm not working on the jobs, but I look at this and I don't understand why they're there with Baco when we could be doing other things. One guy, one guy maybe tied with Baco, but that's your call. I guess I don't get it. And the other thing, I watched the street sweeper, I mentioned to you, go up to Fumie Falls, the road that's right before you get to Fumie Falls. And I don't understand, you have a guy that could be helping on these projects, sweeping the highway. I realize we get paid for that. And then I look, after I suggested or talked to you on it, I look in the executive session and it says that our street sweeper is not in good enough shape to go down any of the streets but Main Street and US 2. That you try to limit those other areas from getting swept. So I don't understand why we're getting paid to go all the way to Quinnipiac with the street sweeper that's not worthy to maintain the sweeping for the citizens and taxpayers of this city. I don't understand that. I don't get it at all.
Well,
If the street sweeper is not in good shape, it should not be going that far. We have other jobs in this area, we should be doing them. They're taxpayers.
I know I've heard you talk about the street sweeper on many, many, many occasions. That street sweeper, we try to get it out every other week. It has been out on numerous occasions when you said it wasn't out. So I did tell David that I'm going to mandate that we have a constant schedule on that. But as far as the condition of that sweeper, that is our shop foreman's responsibility, and he keeps that in operating condition. If it's not in good enough shape to go up to Quinnipiac, that's, first off, that's his call. And, as far as going on to other streets, again, those guys set the schedule. I'm just relaying information that those guys talk about down there. That I know we tried to replace that sweeper as early as 2006. I know we did some extensive work on it once we found out we couldn't get the grant on the sweeper. So, those are issues that I can bring back to David, but
I mean, right on the report here that you wrote, it says, "We are concerned that our street sweeper will not handle a heavy workload." It says right here. So why are we putting the extra heavy workload on in an area?
we do it once a year.
I don't care if we did it
I know.
every 3
I know you
years.
don't care.
If it's not if we cannot use it to better our community in our taxpayer district, why are we using it for the state of Michigan? I do not get
Well,
it.
it's actually for the road commission. We get a personal request from the road commission. We do one time a year we go up to Quinnipiac, one time a year we go down to Vulcan. And that's just something we've done. They've helped us out in other areas. So, we do get paid for it. It's not like we're not getting paid and then we have to horse trade, but it does help them out, just like the Vector unit. We've done different jobs for them because they don't have that kind of equipment. We do. So if council decides that we shouldn't be doing that, we absolutely will not do it. But it's just a traditional thing. that we
Don't
do.
they help us out with other things
They
too? So
do,
it's kind of, yeah.
They do. It's not something, though, that we have to be careful on just horse trading.
Right.
So that's why they pay us, because it actually goes through on the US 2 and US 8 funding.
And it's only once a year?
It's once a year up to Quinnipiac, and then they ask us to go down to Vulcan.
So it's not like a weekly thing?
No,
That's what I
absolutely
was
not.
thinking, weekly
Absolutely
or
not.
monthly or something.
No, and I think that's what they were referencing to me, is that if you go out on a regular basis on numerous streets, it's more of a long-term effect on the unit.
We have
What's going
numerous
up and down.
streets in town that need to be done, and that is.
Yeah, one of the issues we
for the
have,
taxpayers.
one of the issues I've had, and we've talked a little bit about this, is that you mentioned the catch basins. One of the biggest problems we have, and the reasons the catch basins are plugged, is because people are throwing grass on the street. And so a few years ago, we were trying to address it. The last couple of years, we've kind of backed off, but we may have to go back and address that. The grass is one of the major issues of plugging up those catch basins.
And you look
So-
at the marbles that are on the intersection, Valley View, corner up there, Scenic and Valley View.
Yep.
You come through there with a motorcycle, up by Red Line, you come through with a motorcycle, you go down 7th Avenue, not so bad now because they just laid new tar, but those places are terrible with marbles, and it's not just the leaves and stuff that are in the catch basins. And this thing is purchased, and it's paid through the taxpayers, and I think the taxpayers should have top priority to get their areas clean rather than worrying about the county.
Well, like I said, if the council does not want us to do that, then by all means, let me know.
Well, personally, I see nothing wrong with the policy. And you have to remember, we're working with 3 less people than we were a few years ago in the water and street department. And Mr. Ball is prioritizing things, and I'm not going to micromanage him. If this is the service, what Ray did, I'd call it a command decision here. That's his prerogative, that's what he's hired for, and I'm not going to micromanage him.
I'm not micromanaging either, but I just think that the taxpayers have first dibs on the street sweeper. And it's clearly in here that it's not in good shape. And if you're saying we're short on help, then why are we sending somebody to do the county's work when we should be utilizing that help in the city of Norway's boundaries? It's ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, like the manager said, the council wants to change the policy, they can. Any other comments, Mark? Got anything else?
Yes, Mr. Anderson was looking for some guidelines on the the Hanbury Lake repairs with Mr. Al Bilski. He was looking for input, and I thought this would probably be a good time to give him some sort of direction or whatever he's looking for, being everybody's here.
Well, I guess I just was asking your opinion. Al's been working with us with the Parks and Rec group for a number of months. We searched around for equipment operator, contractor that was comfortable working in water environment, with the type of work we're doing. Just like we've seen in some of the other projects, it was hard getting some callbacks, and Al stepped up and he started helping us with some budgets and working on plans. And I just want to make sure that when we move forward, he's doing this for cost, and he's giving him his costs, and we're going to provide some trucking and some help. But I don't want to have any problems. I want to know now if I'm having any problems with we're not bidding it out per se. So I know that in talking around with a number of contractors, the ones that were really declining didn't want to mess with the water. They didn't have the equipment. The couple that I heard that had the equipment were familiar with it. Either didn't get back with me or they just were busy.
I think the only one when you put out where that you were looking was Mr. Weber.
Well, I talked to Mr. Weber. I talked with Mr. Nichols, has an excavator that could work in the water area. Some of the others, they didn't have the equipment that I talked to, so.
Well, I think you have a good man with Mr. Bilski.
Yeah. And I know when we talk, he understands the issues that we're dealing with trying to keep the cost down low, working with our folks to try and, like I said, keep the cost down. He sits on the road commission, so he obviously knows what issues we're dealing with, budget-wise, so.
I don't have a problem with that.
I think Al's a good man, and he's going to be more than fair with us. We're probably going to get a lot of benefits through him that he's not going to charge us for.
Yeah. Scott, how do you feel about it?
Good?
You okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else, Mark?
That's all I got.
I just got one comment here. I see 3 of our local ladies went and took a Red Cross course, and they're heading for Houston, volunteering for the mess they have down there. So big kudos to Chris Fall, Susan Catlin, and Rosemary Ball. I know this is on a larger scale, but what we need, I believe on a smaller scale in town, we need more local volunteering. Because there's always, if you want to volunteer to do anything for the city, I'm sure if you come down here, they can send you to Park and Recs, wherever. There's all kinds of little projects where they need help cleaning up. Nothing else, Rake and Marion Park. That's all I have.
I'll make,
You want something to say?
I was gonna adjourn, but I forgot
Good
about
job.
Grant.
Mr. Carlson?
Sure, I don't think Lee forgot about me, he just wanted me not to talk. Just the only thing I was looking at, folks, I've spoken enough tonight, but on Wednesday, September 27th at 6 PM, there's a Norway Area Planning Commission meeting, and the topic on that night, I think the Planning Commission and the community is looking for the opinions and input regarding the new medical marijuana laws and the changes that are going to be coming forward on January 1st of 2018. And the Planning Commission is meeting to have an open session to talk about the community and the community input on whether or not to allow for certain permits and options available here in the community. I think it's important that the community has a chance to speak out about it and let their opinions be known, if they are for it, against it, neutral, and just to be able to get educated and be able to have their voices heard. So that's Wednesday, September 27th at 6 p.m., I believe, downstairs.
Yeah, just so you know, we actually moved our regular meeting from the week prior, was it October 5th, to September 27th, so it's a regular planning commission meeting. We are also planning to have an actual published public hearing. We weren't publishing it as a public hearing as such, so we have a number of guest speakers for that evening, technical guest speakers. So, you know, it's good to have the input on both sides of the issue. We're going to want to respect the guest speakers because it's specific, you know, targeted for the technical, you know, side of this. But again, it is free, it is, you know, open and, you know, getting the comments. But again, we're going to have another public hearing. In that one, we definitely want to, you know, get as many pros, cons in it as well. I got one other thing, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned about going down to Houston. I just want to let everyone know that, you know, I did receive 2 phone calls. One was from the Michigan Association, and the other is from the Wisconsin Association. We interact with both states. We're being on the border and with our WPPI presence, and they did request or ask if we'd consider sending a crew to Florida, actually. I had to decline, and I just wanted to let you know that. It's not that we didn't want to help, but, you know, we have a very small staff and very, you know, with our equipment, and I just felt, and talked with Tim Brew about it as well, we just felt that we would probably put our own system at risk with such a small crew. The associations understood it, but it was their obligation. We are in a mutual aid. If we get calls from Escanaba, Florence, you know, something within the area, we definitely consider helping out. Just like if we need help, we've got that mutual aid package already set in place. I mean, our mutual aid is with, again, with, you know, we have Escanaba, Gladstone, Elder Delta is actually with us, Florence, Crystal Falls. So we have a pretty good network. But, you know, something like what happened down there, I mean, they were looking to bring people in from all over. I just wanted to let you know that we did evaluate it, and we just felt like we couldn't.
Did they contact us, or did the employees contact them?
No, I got contacted by both. So I got contacted by the association, and I was questioned by the employees. So I ended up talking mostly with the association.
Okay.
Mary, do you have anything? Mr. Osmond, do you have anything? Motion to adjourn.
What? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Mrs. Brew,
Yes?
Mr. Babalani,
Yes.
Mr. Menegini.
Yes.
Mr. Pop.
Yes.